And welcome to this session. We will start talking about concepts that are peculiar to Rust very soon, and this demands that we understand something known as a scope. So in this video, we're going to talk about scoping. A scope is a section in a program where a value, and I also mean a variable, is valid. They are defined within blocks delimited by opening and closing braces, and values cannot be used outside of their scope. Child scopes may access values in the parent scope, but the reverse is not possible. Now let me give you the explanation. If you look at this main function, which we have seen over and over, you can see that there is an opening brace, and when I select it, there is a corresponding closing brace. These two curly brackets defines what is known as the scope. So the scope of the main function is everything between these two curly brackets. And anytime I open and close a new set of curly brackets, I'm introducing a new block and for that matter, a new scope. If I define any variable outside of main, then that variable is outside the scope of main. Okay, now let me use this program here to explain things for you. I have this variable x and I have bound to it the value 100 inside the main scope, so I can print s here. Now I open and close another set of curly brackets here, and so I'm introducing a new block and for that matter a new scope. Inside it, I'm defining x to be 15. So this x here shadows the x from the parent scope. So this is the child scope and everything here is the parent scope. So this x here shadows what is in the parent scope as far as usage of x is concerned within the child scope. So if I print x and y here, you will see that instead of seeing 100, you will see 15 for x, because within the inner scope, x has been defined to be 15. Okay, and down here I come and I print x, then you can see that x will be 100. So I'll do cargo run. So you can see that the first print, let me make this smaller so we can see it side by side. Okay, so the first print is reading the s from the main scope. The second print is reading the x from the inner scope, and so you can see that x is 15. Now, once the program execution goes past this closing bracket here, every variable that was defined within this scope is dead and gone, and so is inaccessible, it's not usable. So when I come out here on line 22, when this print ln statement executes, the x here is gone. In fact, this whole scope is gone, and so the x that will be seen is what has been defined in the main scope. Now I'll come down here and uncomment this line. In this line, I'm trying to print x and y, and it is complaining about y, and the reason is it cannot find value y in the scope, and the reason is that the y was defined in the inner scope, but it is not defined in the outer scope, because once program execution gets here, this scope has been passed and the y value is no more accessible, and that is the reason why line 23 is not going to work. Now I said child scopes may access values in the parent scope, but the reverse is not possible. Let me show you a demonstration of that. So let's imagine that inside the inner scope I didn't shadow the x variable. You can see that over here I am printing x and y, and the compiler is not complaining, and the reason is that this is the child scope and it has access to what has been defined in its parent scope. So if I run this program once more, you can see that this time around when I print x, sorry, I didn't save it. So this time around when I run the program again, you can see that x is 100 and y is 25. And the reason is that x was never redefined here. Okay, so this is it about scopes. What you need to remember is that each set of opening and closing curly brackets defines a scope, and variables are valid within the scope in which they are defined. Child scopes have access to values in the parent scope, but the reverse is not possible. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.